I revisited a favorite of mine from the past generation, I guess. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a 2019 action-adventure Souls-like that was developed by Respawn and published by EA. It is set between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, like everything in Star Wars apparently, taking place roughly 5 years after the Jedi Purge. Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? 5 years after the Purge. And we follow Cal Kestis. That's Cal with a C, Kestis with a K.
Kind of like you just purged your balls of all the piss stored in them.
The only good ginger to ever exist.
True.
Who is a former Padawan who survived the Purge, surviving on a scrapping planet when he gets outed as a Jedi by, Inquisitors doing their inquisitoring, hunting for all the Jedis and shit. And then he gets abducted. Sort of, not really.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Yes. He gets taken in, I guess, by a crew of people also trying to restore the Jedi Order or whatever, giving him hope and shit. Cere Junda, who is, as is revealed later in the game, a former Jedi Master who has cut herself off from the Force, and Grease, the lovable, goofball, grumpy old man, heart of gold mechanic, and so on. All the Star Wars types you know and love. They also, along the way, pick up a couple of other characters, who I will not spoil because this is still a fairly recent game. You are going on a quest to find a Jedi holocron that contains the names and the social security numbers and IP addresses of a bunch of Force-sensitive children, because they want to bring back the Jedi Order so they can defeat the Empire for obvious reasons. This was a miracle at the time, and I think a lot of its luster is actually worn off on me, which is weird. I wasn't expecting it. But at the time, this was when Star Wars was like down in the dumps real bad. The reception of the past couple of movies had been crazy. One of them had bombed, especially on the video game front. The only games that had been released were Battlefront and Battlefront 2, both of which were met with numerous controversies and a mixed reception, we'll say. So we had no clue that this was going to be good, or even an actual, just a single player game without DLC or in-game in-game purchasable content. And then somehow Respawn fended off EA long enough to release a complete, mostly polished game with no DLC. Crazy. And I think...
No, there was free DLC that they gave out kind of often.
That's just post-launch bullshit that they didn't draw.
Like, hey, here's a free skin. Wow, thanks.
I'm gonna cover that later. And also because it was competent and not bad, I think people really got over-invested in this one, myself included.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. I will front load this by saying I still think this is a fantastic game, but after replaying it, I think this is my third playthrough. I think its cracks are kind of evident, and they are glossed over. The fuck are you watching? Are you watching Sport Ball?
Your mom.
She doesn't stream. She posts porn videos. They're different.
She started an OnlyFans. Yes, I'm watching Sport Ball.
And because of its presentation and it feels like Star Wars, I think a lot of that those things got kind of smoothed over. And now that I have reduced my investment in Star Wars a good bit, and there's been a couple of other very good projects in the meantime, I think I can come to terms more clearly with its flaws and actually appreciate what it is. This is like the most mashup game I've played, I think. So on a gameplay level, this is Dark Souls, because everyone talked about it. It's really obvious. Don't be fucking stupid and act like it's not true. Dark Souls, apparently Sekiro. I still haven't played it.
Only because of the control scheme.
Yeah, I guess. Or Bloodborne, I guess, because it's like defensive, offense, whatever.
No, I would say more like the left bumper is the parry and the right bumper is the attack. Like, that's Sekiro.
I think it's just more because it's more of a parry system, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And as well as Uncharted and a few other things. This is a Star Wars reskin of its contemporaries, and there is nothing wrong with that. It's just, as I've played it now multiple times and I'm encountering it with more, each playthrough I now have more other games under my belt. I've widened my horizons a little bit. I think this game is basically just sections pulled from other games, and then they stirred it into a Star Wars pot, and that's fine.
Yeah,
that's not a complaint. Good. No part of that is a complaint. It's just being honest about it, because the Star Wars part of the game is the best part. The game in it's better than the sum of its parts, because all of its parts are really good, but they don't actually mesh very well with each other, whether it be the platforming or the combat or the general storytelling or the open world exploration stuff. They don't actually mesh together very well, especially after replaying so many times. So presentation stuff. It feels like Star Wars. It's true. It feels like Star Wars. I wanted to swing a lightsaber. I got to swing a lightsaber. The score is one of my favorite parts of this thing in general. It is a mixture of a lot of old, previously used Star Wars motifs, as well as a hell of a lot of new material. It mixes stuff from the prequels and the original trilogy, and then a lot of original stuff. It's dynamic in the levels as well, so you're not always hearing the same track all the time. It fucking slaps. No notes. Good shit. Other presentation stuff that goes really well in each of the world settings and on every planet and every cutscene. The visual contrast between the light side and the dark side is really fucking obvious. It's super ham-fisted, but it's Star Wars. Star Wars has never been subtle, so it's like, wow, look at this natural, organic planet. It's so happy and peaceful, and then the Empire just has a fucking dick in it. And it's like, wow, look at that big building sticking out of the side of a mountain. That doesn't look natural. This cave is not a natural formation. Stuff like that gets a little old because it's so discussed to death, but it works really well. Where every scene you can see, wow, look at how good this place used to be, or look at what this culture was doing over here, and then wow, look at the Empire with their metal sheets and stormtroopers and shit, and it creates a lot of visual contrast. The camera work in cutscene is fantastic. It's shot like a Star Wars movie or a Star Wars TV show. It includes
sweeping vistas.
I was gonna say pan wipes. The very Star Warsy where the screen will go up and then there's a new frame. It doesn't happen in the two anthology movies, which people were all butthurt about. It's a Star Wars camera technique that they basically patented. It nails the tone down. It's got a lot of very serious moments. It does go over some decent themes of trauma and survivor's guilt and stuff like that. It does tread on very tread ground, either for Star Wars or just in general for media, but it does it well. It concocts a soup of ingredients that everybody knows, and then it puts on some little Star Wars jimmies on top.
Whoa.
Sprinkles.
Do you always call them jimmies?
No, it depends.
On what?
On the soup. Good soup.
I just put them on my sandwiches.
That's disgusting. Are you fucking Australian?
Why do you put sprinkles on soup?
I didn't say it was hot soup. I didn't say it wasn't melted ice cream soup. Its presentation is really strong. It uses a lot of iconic imagery from multiple different eras of Star Wars and smushes them together in really interesting and cool ways, whether it be the ships that are present, the outfits, the planets. It's all very cool on that front. The story is very straightforward, which is also fine. It's a very Star Wars-y tale of hiding from the Empire and the bad guys, and then getting pulled out of hiding because of bad things and repressed trauma and survivor's guilt because you are the only Jedi who didn't die in the Purge, except the other 18 people. And then there's also an apprentice who's fallen to the dark side because they feel betrayed by their master. But it's the most Star Wars shit, so it's fine.
Jedi, Fallen Order, a very Star Wars-y tale.
True. It does all the Star Wars tropes, but in no way does that drag the experience down. If anything, that's why it feels so at home in the Star Wars universe. Whether you're talking pre-Disney era, post-Disney era, whatever. It just is wow, that was the most Star Wars thing I've ever fucking seen. It integrates multiple different eras of stuff. There's magic, which is a very Clone Wars-y thing. There's a lot of Clone Wars stuff in here. There's a lot of prequel stuff, and then there's a lot of new imagery coming in from the original trilogy of like, wow, look at all the ATSTs and the Stormtroopers and shit. And it's a big old mixing pot.
I think that was part of the shiny that I liked about it, was all of the Clone Wars stuff that I didn't know about. I was like, whoa, that's cool and new. And then I watched Clone Wars and I went, oh.
Yes, which is also cool because it means if you don't know it, you're experiencing something for the first time, and it portrayed it in a way that's like, oh wow, I didn't know that was a thing, and it's not like confusing. So yeah, you go on some adventures. You follow the tale. Who you will find out is Seer Junda's master. He had this obsession. He's very Qui-Gon-esque. He had this obsession with another race of Star Wars aliens who were very close to the Force. Like, that's never happened before. He wanted to unlock their secrets, so he made a fetch quest on top of another fetch quest on top of another fetch quest across the entire galaxy, and then he gave you a droid.
That is a typical Star Wars move.
That it so fucking is, though. So you follow in his footsteps, unlocking codex entries, force echoes, which are basically flashbacks you get by touching things, and unlocking secrets within BD-1, the droid, and you get the holocron eventually. And then... no spoilers. It's a very straightforward story, but it does tend to feel like a fetch quest, especially in the second act of the game.
Then you're exploring an ice cave, and all of a sudden there's a big sumbitch that they call a boss battle. That guy sucks.
Yes. Yeah, in the second act in particular, although I think the planets in the second act are the more interesting ones, I think the pacing definitely falls apart in just very, and oh great, something else happened that's going to pull us away from the main plot. I hope nothing happens. And then, like, you know, it happened, whatever. But a lot of its emotional beats hit extremely well. In particular, the flashback sequences where you are a Padawan right before the Jedi Purge, you know, Order 66, all the memes, where you are remembering old Force abilities that you had learned as a Padawan. You get fucking traumatized as shit, man. Like, this game nails that. There's one of my favorite sequence in the game, or my favorite like little moment, is you're running down the hallways and you like high five a clone trooper, and then like 3 seconds later they're trying to kill you. It's so good. Like, going over the Purge again has become extremely heavy laden in Star Wars media as of late, and I would argue a lot of it is entirely unnecessary. This is easily the best time we've seen the Purge outside of Revenge of the Sith. It's so good. And I think the themes that it goes through with Cal's survivor's guilt about his master dying, and then him not being able to save people and all that sort of fun stuff, I think it's really, really good. And I think it does make Cal one of the more interesting characters, even though these stories have been laid throughout Star Wars canon 1,000 other times before. I just
thought for sure you were going to say, even though he's a ginger.
It's also true. He is a ginger, which is disgusting. But I think he is my favorite, like...
the real reason why they were trying to purge him.
Look at the ginger baby! Kill it now! Yes. From this era of Star Wars storytelling, I think he's my favorite character. He is complicated, and he struggles with a lot of problems, and he has his moments. He has outbursts. He's not always in control of himself, but he is he is a sweet boy. And he's like 19, but like whatever. He's a very kind person in general, and I think they do that very well. Whereas a lot of other Star Wars protagonists are either just Diet Han Solo or like super mega wise, and this kid's like not like a child, but he's like, I'm a little inexperienced and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but like I'm going to try. And he has the willpower of like the best of us, and I really like that. The side characters that you meet that I won't spoil are all fucking phenomenal. There's a couple of people that join your crew, which I think are the best. Goth Mommy, let's go. Saw Gerrera has a fantastic cameo in this. I wouldn't even call it cameo, I guess supporting role in this game. Nice little couple of hours spent on Kashyyyk during a revolution, rebellion, fighting the Empire and shit.
Free the Wookiees.
Yes.
I need that political sticker on my car.
They definitely exist. So while the story does fall into some very, very heavy Star Wars tropes, I think it does it better than most other Star Wars media. And especially when you throw that on top of it being an interactable experience, really, really makes for a good experience. Experience makes for experience. You get it?
Do I get XP points?
No. Gameplay wise, it kind of falls into a few different sections. So when the game starts off, basically a couple of hours in, you get to go to a total of 5 planets: Bogano, Zepho, Ilum, Kashyyyk, and then
Is that Mustafar?
No, it's...
I think there's the fire planet.
No. Fuck, what is it called?
I don't know.
Dathomir, there we go. There's 5 explorable planets, and then there's the final mission does take place on another one, but it's only the final mission. And that's not Mustafar, it's some other planet where the Inquisitors have their castle. So a short while into the game, you are able to go to other planets to do it somewhat non-linearly. It's really hard to do that, but you can do it. So it gives you some fake choice as to where you want to start your adventure, which is appreciated even if it is a fake choice. And each world acts as... I don't really know how to describe their worlds. They're very intentionally built, and that's my most important part. They're kind of open world-ish, but they're fairly small for being an open world. But they're not just levels, but they are levels by definition, because it's like they designed
more levels than open world because there's only one path to progress them.
Mostly, there are some side paths you can get with other abilities, but like they're big enough, either multiple like layers of depth, multiple floors or whatever, or enough side routes where you can by the time you're done completing a planet, you can zip and zap through in like 5 minutes, when in comparison to the first time you go through the planet, it takes like hours to get to the other side of it. It is very Metroidvania in that sense, which has been brought up 1,000 times. The thing with that makes it enjoyable for me, as someone who appreciates Metroidvanias but doesn't actually like playing them, is the mini-map just tells you when you can go somewhere else.
Yes. Hey, that door that you couldn't open before, you can open now, and it's blinking yellow.
Yes. It does mean that your new abilities or upgrades act like a key instead of like a new skill, which is a little disappointing. So it does mean, wow, look, door opens now. But it's good that the map just tells you. It'll go, ooh, look, the thing over there that on the mini map was red before, it's green. So it makes it a lot easier.
It's blue.
No, the whole map is blue.
Oh.
It makes it a lot easier to backtrack, and it makes it a lot more enjoyable.
What the heck is that bug? It's freaking huge.
I don't know. I've seen 1,000 of those before.
It's not a mosquito.
Nah, I don't know.
It's not a dragonfly.
It's a bug. Bug-shaped bug.
It's a dragon mosquito. He's come to suck your dick. What? Dragons are gay.
Dragons are gay. So exploring each one of the planets, I did find to be the most enjoyable part of the experience. There are a lot of force echoes and codex entries hidden in a lot of different random places. BD1, my best baby boy, precious droid baby, little doggo, can just scan everything to give you all sorts of cool dialogue and just fun shit, but it's all optional. You get little amounts of XP from exploring things like that. You can go through crevices in the wall to find a room, and you're like, wow, the room is pretty, and then the droid's like, by the way, here's a fucking exposition dump if you want to read it. And I like that shit. I'm a sucker for that. There are side stories in the codex entries that are written throughout, which is a really nice touch. So it's not just information. They're basically like journal entries, but for the character that you're following, which is nice.
It's collected really well too. It's just side-by-side pages, so you can actually sit there and read through the whole thing if you want to.
Yes. And then there are also Force Echoes, which is I forget what it's called. It's an in-canon ability, whereas you touch a thing and you can feel the object's memories, basically. All of my favorite characters have it. Cal Kestis has it. Rey has it. Quinlan Vos, my favorite old character that nobody knows about, has it. It's the coolest fucking thing. You're like... a gay orgy happened here. I can feel it. It just, I like that shit. It's super cool, and I like that that's a not unique, but a lot more obscure force power. It also makes for like playing video games way more interesting.
It's not just picking up an audio cassette tape everywhere and then listening to it as you run down a long hallway.
Yes. As you explore, when you unlock new force abilities like push, pull, grab, freeze, etc., that also unlocks new areas and new challenges in the environments. I feel like those are paced fairly well. They're not the most creative because they're all light side powers, but whatever, it's fine. It does mean that by the time you're done exploring a planet, you can go from point A, like the one side to the other side in a few minutes, like single-digit minutes, which is really fun to do when you string together all sorts of shit. While you're exploring, there are a bunch of collectibles and then skill points and so on. The collectibles are all just chests full of lightsaber parts, lightsaber colors, ponchos, because Cal wears a poncho, the drippiest shit on the planet, new skins for the ship that you fly around in, and your droid. They're all fine. I don't have many complaints. I wish there was more. I wish that they were a little better, because I still end up going with default skin 99% of the time.
They really do look like the same exact thing, but with different colors.
They do, but I like that that's the only stuff that you have to pick up is just aesthetic collectibles.
Right.
Yeah, there are also chests, which are very clearly marked, where you unlock new stim packs, just a health boost that BD1 can carry. So you don't just have the one magic potion, you have the 5 magic potions. Those are all fine. That's about it for like side collectibles. It's a good amount for my taste anyways. You find the vast majority of them while you're exploring. If you do the Metroidvania bit and you backtrack a little bit, you find nearly all of them. Like, not without trying, but like there's no grind for it. Even in like post story endgame.
What you're trying to say is that even for you, it was easy to get all the collectibles.
Yes, I completed this on my original walkthrough with like maybe 5 hours in the end game, and I don't think I had to look anything up. Like, that's fun. It means I don't feel like I'm being forced to collect everything to get 100%. It's just there. Some of it is cool and useful, and most of it's just pretty colors. That's fine. The skill tree is fine. A lot of it is story-based unlocks of remembering abilities that you have forgotten because of repressed trauma and shit, which are paced very well for the story in terms of exploration, but in terms of the skill tree, it's kind of lame.
It's really easy to max it out quick.
Yeah, especially if you're doing I hesitate to even call it a completionist run, even though it technically is. Like, even if you're trying to get everything, you're gonna blow through the skill tree most of the way through the game, like halfway through the game maybe, and it only unlocks new sections when you get new abilities. So it feels like you end up collecting a lot of points and then waiting for a new ability or a new part of the tree to unlock on its own, and then you can dump a bunch of skills into it, which isn't super well paced. Combat. This was the biggest thing that kind of flopped for me on this playthrough. It's fine. The biggest thing for me, which I knew it originally because I think I played this directly after binging through most of the Souls games like a moron, was, damn, it's so fucking easy. I'm so used to it, but it's animation based, which means that you don't have to be near enemies to hit them, and they don't have to be near you to hit them, and your angles don't matter, and your timing barely matters because the animation has to complete before anything happens, and you can't cancel animations. Which, if you're not in the right mind state to play with, fucking sucks. If you are in the right mind state, it means everything looks cool as fucking hell and you're fly as shit, though. So it's a very mixed bag on that front. The animations themselves are extremely high quality. Cameron Monaghan, the actor who plays Cal, did his own motion capture and stunt work, so the actual animations look fan-fucking-tastic. It's just, especially when it comes to critters, just wild animals, the animations clash really hard, and it makes fighting them more agitating and cheesing than like the actual boss battles or even just regular enemies, which is very fucking annoying. Again, especially on my third playthrough now, apparently I wasn't in the mind state for this because it took me another 5 hours to get back in the rhythm of how to even play it, which was really annoying. Because that's like halfway through the story. When the combat...
And then you're playing Seventh Sister that just kicks your ass.
Yes. When it does work, though, The combat is smoothish. It looks really fun. It's rewarding. It is complex with a high enough skill ceiling, but it's not impossible to get a hold of if you are new to it. The roll / dodge and block and parry system, I think, works extremely well. It's just one of those things where, like, once your muscle memory catches on to the game, it's smooth as butter. But just the first few hours is like cringe-inducing for me, anyways. On this playthrough, initially didn't have that problem. You can use your force abilities in combat, and that's the most fun part for me, especially once you get past about the middle of the game. There are so many enemy varieties just doing all sorts of crazy shit, so you can freeze a force bolt in the air and then use the force to freeze a blaster bolt, and then you can pull a stormtrooper through it. Cool as shit. I love that stuff. It's so much fun. The power fantasy is very real, but not overwhelmingly, like, no challenge to it. Even in endgame, when you're used to everything still poses a level of challenge. You send people's rockets back towards them. You know, that stuff is all fan-fucking-tastic. It's a very simple combat loop, but it does flounder towards the end of Act 1, early Act 2, just because there aren't enough new enemies introduced to spice things up.
I always like the ability of having the heavy gunner with the shield being like, you can't beat me, and just force push them off the cliff.
That's usually what I do.
F you. It's fun.
Yes. The enemy variety I do like. That seems to be, I guess, a hot take. Apparently, a lot of people didn't feel like the enemies were well differentiated enough. I think they're fine. The big thing is that on all difficulties, your lightsaber does the same amount of damage. It's the key reason why this game works for me combat-wise. If you play on basically story mode versus Jedi Grandmaster, you can kill a regular stormtrooper in one hit with your lightsaber. Doesn't matter what difficulty you're on. It just changes the amount of time you have to block or parry and how much damage enemies do. It keeps them from being damage sponges, which is really fucking important. Another reason I don't want to play Elden Ring. During different portions of the game as well, you unlock a dual-sided lightsaber, which is better for crowd control and like area of effect damage, which is good if there's a bajillion guys on your ass. It does have a fairly limited like move set. I find myself flipping back to single blade very frequently. And then later in the game, you get to disconnect a double blade to make two lightsabers.
Honestly, I hated that ability came way so late in the game because I never used it.
I agree. And that's one of the reasons I'm really looking forward to the sequel, is because apparently it's pretty early on and they developed a much larger skill set for it.
Yeah.
Because it's really cool, and it's basically unlocked with like one trigger press when you're in the middle of attacking somebody, and that's really fucking cool. But yeah, by the time you're using it, you're just chewing through people like crazy, so it doesn't help much. It just makes it look flashy. Customization is all fine. I have mixed feelings in terms of how lightsabers function. I like that lightsaber colors and parts are all just aesthetic, but also you can't really see the lightsaber because it's in your hand, so it doesn't really matter. And the colors are all pretty, and that's fine. I kind of wish that they would make them stat relevant. Not a lot, but like if you can't see your lightsaber anyways, like unless you pull it, like if you keep blade colors to just be aesthetic, and then maybe the type of alloy that your lightsaber is, so basically the general hues of the metal, is tied to some minor stat boost, it would mean that you have a god ugly lightsaber, but it's got the best stats, or vice versa, or whatever. Like, something, because it does make the changing your lightsaber feel really arbitrary. Like, it's fine. The actual customizer looks really good. It's very shiny. It's very fun, but like, it doesn't do anything for the gameplay. So like, either way, there's going to be problems. If your skins basically are like stat relevant, it's going to turn into Assassin's Creed Unity, which would suck. But also, it only being aesthetic means that you don't feel like you have a lot of control over a lot of the game. So I don't know if there's a better option there. It's just a little frustrating. Boss battles are kind of a mixed bag. Some of them I think are fairly well designed. The second sister, the main antagonist of the game, has multiple encounters, which are mostly she comes in, wrecks you just completely murks you the hell out, but conceivably you could have actually gotten a counter hit in. It doesn't cheese the fight. You just do not have the skills to fight her yet, which is cool. Her actual final fight though does fucking suck. Not because it doesn't look cool and it doesn't perform well, but because there's a couple of very stupid decisions they made with some of her attacks that just make them unblockable, and she can one-hit you on higher difficulties. It just gets really, really frustrating.
That's how Sekiro plays.
Yeah, I got stuck on that battle on every playthrough, even though it's really fun when you remember how it works, but just there's a couple of things that you can get really tripped up on. Some of the other bosses are very bland. There's a giant bat creature on Dathomir that barely functions as a boss fight. It's really clunky. The camera angles fucking suck. The seventh sister, I believe, is one of the other secondary antagonists.
The big tank one.
The big tank one. Best boss battle of the game, except for one that happens on Dathomir that I don't want to talk about because that's pretty heavy spoilers. That section of the game is my favorite. That lightsaber fight is peak. Side tangent, real quick. There is a prequel comic book, which I also read. It's okay. It is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. What the fuck is it called?
The prequel comic.
Yeah, it's a prequel comic. I don't even remember what the hell its name is. Dark Temple. It's a prequel that follows Seer Junda as a Padawan and her master Cordova. I don't remember his first name. Mostly just kind of on a side adventure. Just what was their dynamic like? It's literally Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. It's the exact same dynamic, but that's my favorite dynamic in all of Star Wars. So
Toyota Cordova. Come on, it was a funny joke.
Toyota. It's literally like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. But I like that, so it's fine. The art was actually really good for... A lot of the Star Wars books have really lazy art in the Marvel Disney era. A lot of them have really good stories, but some of the art's very disappointing. And I thought that this stuff was really good. So it's illustrated by Paolo Villanelli, I think is how you say his name. I talked about... Damn, you're Bill. I talked about this on our other show, Dimegamingbros, like 2 years ago, around when the book came out. I liked it then. I like it now. It was worth the reread. It's 5 issues, fairly brief. The art's, like I said, very good, very flashy. A lot of multiple panels within a panel. So say you have a big room full of bad guys, and then it'll have little mini panels of the Jedi attacking them, but because they're fast. I like that sort of stuff. It's like you see it a lot in superhero comics, like a Nightwing book, for instance, but it works really well here. There is a framing device that I really don't like. It's the exact same problem I had with the Rise of Kylo Ren book, which is also one of the better Star Wars canon books. But it has to be like the whole book is a flashback, actually, of this other character, and it really fucks with the pacing, and it's just annoying because I want to be able to just read that. Even though I know the context, I want to just pick this up and not be sequel baited into playing the game. It should tell me that you can follow these characters later, but it frames the whole thing in a way that makes it really awkward. Even though those sections look better than the main book, it's the same artist, it's just different color palettes and different textures. It's written by Matthew Rosenberg. I wouldn't know that by reading it. I read a decent chunk of Matthew Rosenberg's books. He's a good writer. I follow his Substack. He's a cool guy. But nothing about the writing really stuck out. It's them going on a side quest and doing Jedi diplomatic shit. Don't be so angry. Listen to all these people. Do the diplomacy stuff. That's about it. It's pretty par for the course. But the art was, I think, a little bit better than normal. So, I don't know, 7 out of 10 maybe for that. I picked it up for normal Marvel cover price, so $15. Bit steep, like with any Marvel book, but it's okay. On the whole, 2019 had a lot of really, really, really good games. A lot of people's favorite games came out that year. And this game made it onto those lists, and I don't think it doesn't warrant it. But I definitely think it was the weakest of all the good games of 2019. That big, you'll remember these in 10 years games, it's the bottom of that list. It's really good. It's fairly well polished. My biggest problem with this, New Game Plus is entirely useless. It was released post-launch as well, alongside a couple of more like arena, you fight a bunch of bad guys in the void things, whatever, and a couple of skins. Cool, good for you. You still unlock all your abilities as the story goes on. So you can't break the game, which defeats the purpose of New Game Plus. Why the fuck would I why don't I just start a new save already? Because it means as I'm playing through, all the chests are already opened. I'm still getting XP from unlocking codex entries because I have to level up, because I have to unlock the abilities, because they're all still story locked. Like, what the fuck? Insanely frustrating for a third playthrough. I played this one on this playthrough for my replay on Jedi Master, so it's the third out of 4 difficulties moving upwards, so it's hard mode but not mega super hard mode. I think I had about 13 or 14 hours in total, because I didn't do any side exploration at all, because as soon as I started it and I went, oh fuck. So it's an entirely pointless thing, and New Game Plus was released after launch. So what? Why was this why was this a patch? And it sucks. The fuck.
I don't know.
I think moving forward, this will be a very good series, though. I have yet to play Jedi Survivor. I'm looking forward to it. It's been out for a few months now. I'm playing it fairly soon for this show. And I think this is a good basis to build a lot of things off of. I just think they really need to work on integrating the elements better. I don't even remember how much I bought it for. I bought this ages ago. Great game.